When you think of the word animation, the first studio that pops into your head right away is Disney, right? But the truth is, Disney isn't the only one that knows how to make masterpieces. And there are other movies that blew up, beat them in storyline and numbers, and bypassed Disney by miles. To prove this to you, today we have 3 movies that, if you haven't seen them, you're missing out on half the real fun of animation. Get ready for an extraordinary day, and the first movie with us is Neja. Once upon a time, the Chaos Pearl appeared, born from the ultimate power of heaven and earth. It started absorbing massive amounts of energy from the sun and the moon, until it became a real threat to existence. That's when our hero Tai Yao and his brother Xing showed up to try and control it. But its power was just too massive. It transformed into a giant monster that defeated them and completely humiliated. Right then, the Grand Master Ying decided to step in himself with his supernatural power and sealed the monster. He reshaped it, splitting it into 2 parts, the good spirit pearl and the evil demon pearl. Since the demon pearl couldn't be destroyed by normal means, the master placed a curse on it, declaring that in exactly 3 years, a lightning bolt would strike from the sky to destroy it once and for all. He handed them over to Tai to protect them, telling him that heaven had chosen Chief Li Wei for the spirit pearl to manifest inside his soon-to-be-born son. At that moment, Xing felt intense jealousy and deep hatred, because whoever got to raise the child carrying the spirit pearl would gain a massive status among all the masters. So, Tai quickly flew on his strange flying pig to the village chief, Li Wei, and his wife, Anne, to break the happy news. On the long-awaited day of birth, Xing cast a mind control spell on Tai's assistant and completely drugged him. He tried to open the protective shield over the pearls, but he couldn't because only Tai could unlock it. Tai woke up just in time and opened the shield, but they discovered the assistant was controlled. At the same time, another spell was cast on the maid, who managed to take both pearls. She placed the demon pearl inside the energy-transferring stone, and the second it broke, the demonic energy was sent straight into Anne's womb. The child was born with the genes of the demon pearl instead of the spirit pearl, and Xing vanished with the good pearl into the darkness. The baby came into the world looking incredibly strange, like a blazing fireball, running around, biting people, and setting their houses on fire. Because of his intense rage, he transformed into a toddler, and people were running away from him, absolutely terrified. That's why Tai made a magical collar for his neck, preventing his demonic power from fully breaking out. From pure shock, Tai wanted to kill the child, but his mother Anne held her son tightly in her arms and protected him. The moment the child felt her warmth, he became calm, and they decided to keep the child and raise him, even though all the villagers were completely against this decision. Here, Tai had to break the shocking news to the parents. The child, who was now named Neza, only had 3 years left to live in this world before the heavenly lightning bolt would strike and end his life. Down in the Dark Dragon Palace, Xing arrives and hands the spirit pearl to the Dragon King so he can place it inside his little son. Because of it, Prince Ao Bing is born, possessing good powers. The big shock was that as Neza grew up, his normal routine became all about hurting anything in front of him out of boredom and loneliness. He barely ever saw his mother, who was constantly away fighting demons. On this particular day, she was free and decided to play with him. She didn't account for his massive strength. He threw a shuttlecock at her, pinning her to the wall. Suddenly, a guard rushed in, informing her that a monster had appeared in the village and they had to fight it, so she was forced to leave him. But Neza didn't just sit still. He made the guards fight each other and escape to the village. The moment the people heard his voice, they hid, so he thought they were playing hide-and-seek and made a total mess. After that, he went after the village kids, disguising himself and trapping them in setups just to laugh with them. However, the kids called him a scary demon, which made him fly into a rage. At that exact moment, Li Wei and Tai arrived, protected the children, and locked Neza up in the palace. This situation deeply saddened him, especially since the villagers saw him as nothing but a demon. The next day, Neza managed to trick the guards and escape. He found a paper scroll with a strange drawing. The second he touched it, he entered a beautiful, magical world belonging to Tai. Inside the scroll, Tai could control every single detail with his magical brush. He took Neza around to play with him, trying to make him a different person and a strong warrior for good. He started teaching him magic, and to everyone's surprise, Neza mastered the difficult shape-shifting spell in just one single day, which is practically impossible. He took the sacred fire spear, playing around with it, and setting Tai's pants on fire while laughing happily. Tai promised him that if he kept up with the training, he would teach him so many things to help people and kill demons. But Neza didn't want to help anyone because people had hated him since he was a baby. So, his father Li Wei had to tell him a white lie, claiming that he was actually the reincarnation of the good spirit pearl, and that people were just afraid of him because they didn't understand his greatness. He told him his mission was to spread justice and protect them. After 2 years, Neza grew up and completed his training with the fire spear. But unfortunately, his demon hunting ended up destroying the village houses and accidentally hurting humans. So, his father ordered him to be locked inside the scroll world just for training, forbidding him from leaving. But Neza stole Tai's brush, created an exit, and got out. At that exact time, the terrifying sea demon came out and headed toward the village. Neza chased him until the demon took a little girl hostage and headed into the deep sea. Neza was left standing on the shore, completely helpless, because he couldn't chase him into the water. At that very moment, the entire sea froze solid, and a strange, handsome guy appeared. He tried to make the demon surrender, using his agile movements to rescue the little girl and hand her over to Neza. They got into a fight with each other until the stranger's true form was revealed, turning out to be Prince Ao Bing, the son of the Dragon King. The demon capitalized on their argument and fired strange magical orbs at them, turning Ao Bing and the little girl into stone. Neza dashed after the demon with insane speed and hit him until he snatched the magical antidote from him, restoring them back to normal. They spent the rest of the day playing, becoming loyal friends. Neza was filled with pure joy because, for the first time, he had a friend who wasn't afraid of him, and Ao Bing gave him a magical conch shell to call him at any time. From a distance, the villagers suddenly showed up, wrongfully believing that Neza was the one who kidnapped the little girl. Not a single person believed him, and they shouted, "There's the demon!" He got furious and attacked them until Tai and his parents showed up, put an end to it, tied him up, and locked him in the palace. Neza sat there sad and depressed until they told him that in 10 days it would be his 3rd birthday. At that point, he cheered up, rushed to the shore, called Ao Bing with the conch, invited him, and told him he was his only friend. Down in the Dragon Kingdom, the king was making a secret plan with Xing for Ao Bing to kill Neza and take his place. He gave him the strongest ancient scales so he could have a supernatural armor to protect him, since this would be the last day of Neza's life because of the lightning bolt. Tai and Neza's parents threw him a massive birthday party and asked the villagers to attend. During the celebration, the evil Xing suddenly appeared, broke Neza's restraints, and told him right in front of everyone the bitter truth, that he was originally the evil demon Pearl, not the spirit pearl. Neza was completely shocked, discovering that his entire life was nothing but a trick, even from his parents. He completely broke down from rage and removed the collar from around his neck after learning the magical words from Xing. Suddenly, he transformed into a terrifying form. His body grew massive, and his demonic power reached a full 100%. He became a literal ball of burning fire, tearing through the village to burn everything down, just to prove to them that he really was the demon they feared. At that critical moment, Ao Bing arrived, saved Li Wei from death, and stood with his full armor against Neza's power. The two of them went into a terrifying battle across heaven and earth until Tai stepped in, masterfully used the magical collar, and placed it back around Neza's neck. The demonic power vanished, and Neza went back to being a little kid, but out of his intense sadness, he ran off into the forest, completely broken. When the people tried to thank the stranger who saved them, his headpiece fell off, exposing Ao Bing's identity as a descendant of the dragons. The people grew terrified and turned on him, viewing all dragons as demons who stole the spirit pearl. Standing there, Ao Bing was shocked by the humans' ingratitude, flew into a rage, and decided to kill them all. He used his massive power to create a terrifying, gigantic block of ice right above the entire village to bury it and wipe it out of existence. At that time, Neza was sitting in the forest, miserable. He then revealed the ultimate truth, that his father, Li Wei, had traveled to heaven in the past and performed a sacred soul-swapping spell, so that when the lightning bolt arrived, it would strike the father instead, causing him to die and sacrifice his life for his son to live. Neza was deeply moved by his father's love and decided to return immediately to save his family and the village. Neza arrived at the very last second, unfreezing his family, and stood against Ao Bing, entering a powerful battle. The battle shifted into the magical scroll world. Then they broke back out into the real world. Out of his pure rage, Ao Bing transformed into a massive ice drag, breaking the ice above so it would fall on the village. At that point, Neza took off the magical collar from his neck, but smartly kept it wrapped around his wrist so he could control the full demon power without losing his mind. He flew high up into the air, unleashing a massive amount of fire that completely melted the giant block of ice, saving the village. He stood before Ao Bing, convincing him to surrender and forgiving him, because he was his only friend. As the day ended, the curse and the terrifying lightning storm appeared from the sky. Neza, with complete heroism, accepted his fate, breaking the spell his father had made to protect him, refusing to sacrifice his father, and saying a tearful goodbye. He told Ao Bing that it doesn't matter what a person is born as. What matters is that they choose for themselves what to do with their life. The destructive lightning bolt struck hard, and here, Ao Bing refused to leave his friend and decided to fly up with Neza, facing the lightning bolt together as loyal friends. In the final moments, Tai used the magical orb to protect their souls from complete annihilation. After the lightning vanished, nothing was left except the glowing magical orb, with Neza's soul and Ao Bing's soul alive together inside it. All the villagers bowed down in respect and gratitude to the soul of the hero Neza, after he proved to them through his sacrifice that he was the true hero who saved all their lives, changing their perspective forever. And with that, our movie ends. Hope you liked the recap. If you reached the end, don't forget to leave a like on the video and write us a nice comment as you always do. And for those watching us for the first time, subscribe to the channel to see all the upcoming recaps. See you in the next movie. Peace. And the second movie with us is Raya and the Last Dragon. Our movie today starts in a place called Kumandra, where people used to live together with dragons who used to help them with everything, like changing the weather, bringing rain, and making them live in peace, until a terrifying monster called the Droon appeared and spread super fast throughout the whole area, turning anything it touched into stone, even the dragons who fought it with all their strength, until the last dragon, named Sisu, gathered all her magic into a gem and trapped the Droon inside it. And at that moment, everything went back to normal, except for the dragons. After that, our movie's hero appears, named Raya, and she enters a tunnel with her small pet that rolls like a ball, and she makes him go ahead of her to check if there are any traps in the place. And she finally reaches a gate, opens it, and enters to find a gem in front of her. And right after that, the guardian of the gem appears and tries to stop her from getting close to it. And then it turns out that this guardian is Raya's father, and that he was training and testing her, and she passed the test. And Raya stands there looking at the gem, completely fascinated by it. And he tells her that they have been guarding this gem for many years, and that she has now become the chief guardian of the gem. And Raya walks with her father in their palace, and her father tells her that the leaders of the other lands, which were divided after the death of the dragons, are coming to fight them and take the gem. So Raya tells him that she is ready to resist them. So he asks her what she knows about them. So she tells him that the first land is full of mercenaries and very strong sorcerers. The second land is a market famous for fast deals and highly skilled fighters. The third land is the frozen bamboo forest, and the fourth land is Spine, a city protected by a bunch of villains and killers. But her father tells her that in the past, they were one united country, and he wishes they could go back to being like that again, which is why he invited them all to a feast so they could talk instead of fighting and try to fix the situation before they destroy each other. And when all the leaders of the other lands gather, Raya's father starts by welcoming them, but none of them accepts him or wants peace. So Raya steps forward and asks who is hungry, and automatically, a daughter of one of the tribe chiefs goes and introduces herself, saying her name is Namari, and Raya welcomes her and takes her to the feast. And the two girls keep talking to each other and find they have a lot of things in common, and Namari tells her that their country is suffering, even though it looks beautiful from the outside. And she also tells her that the legends in their land say that the dragon Sisu is still alive. And she shows her a scroll and explains to her that the legend says after Sisu defeated the Droon, she fell asleep in a river. So Raya asks her which river, since they have so many rivers. So Namari tells her that nobody knows at all which river she is in. And she also tells her to imagine if they could reach her, all their problems would be solved. And after that, Namari gives a gift to Raya, which is her necklace shaped like Sisu. And Raya takes it and loves it and decides to show her the gem. And suddenly, the evil Namari appears and thanks Raya for leading her to the gem. And she pushes her to the ground, and the two girls fight, and Namari pulls out a flare and shoots it into the sky. And at that moment, Raya's father and the evil chief of the tribe see it, and the soldiers break in on Raya. And the evil chief's daughter says that now the gem is theirs. But Raya's father steps in and defends the gem, and the chiefs of the lands enter, and Raya's father says that he still believes they can put their hands together and that they can bring Kumandra back again. And suddenly, someone shoots an arrow, and it hits Raya's father's leg, and all the chiefs of the lands appear fighting over the gem, which suddenly falls from them and breaks, and the ground shakes violently. And the Droon invades them and starts turning all the people into stone statues. And Raya's father tries to protect her from the Droon, and all the chiefs of the lands run to take pieces of the broken gem for themselves. And then they run far away to escape, and Raya's father falls and tells her that she is now the guardian and tells her to keep going and not give up. And he throws her into the water because water stops the Droon. And Raya's father turns into stone, and Raya appears years later when she has grown up, walking in a destroyed area where all the people have turned into stone statues. And then she goes with her pet, who has grown big, and she reaches a river, wishing it is the one where the dragon Sisu is. But suddenly a stranger appears, and she tries to fight him quickly until he leaves. And Raya keeps talking to her pet,
telling him that she has been searching for 6 years for the river where the dragon is and hasn't reached anything. And she finds the wreckage of a ship in front of her, so she goes inside it and sits talking while holding Sisu, the dragon's necklace, saying that she has been looking for her for 6 years. And this is the last river, and she can't find her, and they really need her. And suddenly, Sisu appears and talks to Raya, who is amazed when she sees her. And Raya tells Sisu that the humans broke the spell and released the Droon again. And she tells Raya that she wasn't the one who made the gem, and that she only transferred the gem. And as soon as Sisu gets close to the gem, it lights up. And Raya tells her that this means she is still connected to the magic inside it, and they can use it again. But they must collect the rest of the gem pieces and save their families from the Droon. And then her father will return, and their country will become united again. And suddenly, Namari enters the river where Raya was to look for her. But she doesn't find her, because Raya took Sisu and went to look for the gem pieces that are with the rest of the tribe. And Raya goes to the first land, and they get the second gem piece, and they now have 2 out of 5. And as soon as Sisu holds the gem, she transforms into a human, and she becomes very happy with her new shape. And suddenly, Namari and her army corner her, and she fights Raya. But Raya succeeds in escaping from them and takes Sisu with her. And they ride Raya's pet and run and jump into the water, and they find a boat. So they go inside and find a young boy. So they ask him about the captain of the boat, and they discover that he is the captain. And Raya asks him to take them to the third land, and the dragon goes down to swim in the water, and Raya asks her to come back quickly before the boy sees her true form. And at that time, the boy prepares food for them, but Raya refuses to eat from it. But the dragon eats from it because of her extreme hunger. And the boat passes through many Droon, and the boy keeps telling Raya that he doesn't like to leave the boat at all because he is scared of them. And the boy asks her what the Droon are. So Sisu tells him that they are something against dragon, meaning just like dragons love water, love and peace, the Droon represent destruction, ruin and evil, turning everything into ash and stone. And finally, they reach the third land, and the boy tells them that he can wait for them and take them to their next destination, but for a financial fee. And Raya asks Sisu to stay in the boat to remain safe while she goes to get the gem and return. But Sisu decides to go buy a gift from the market and discovers she doesn't have money. So the young boy goes to her and tells her she can buy everything and tell them she will pay later, just like adults do. And this would be like a promise from her to them that she will pay them later when she is older, and they will believe her. And Sisu gets happy with the idea and goes to the market and gathers many things. But the people ask her to pay the money because they don't know her, and an old woman comes and takes her from the market, while Raya gets tricked by a young baby girl who robs her, and Raya tries to run after her to get back the 2 gem pieces she stole. And she makes a deal with the baby girl, telling her that she will give her money if she helps her in her mission. And we find out later that the old woman who took Sisu is the one who has the 3rd gem piece. And she asks Sisu about the 2 pieces that are with Raya, and she tells her that if she doesn't tell her where the 2 pieces are, she will leave her for the Droon to eat her. And at that moment, Raya arrives and saves her, and they return to the boat. And we find that the baby girl and her small pet monkeys are waiting for them there. And Raya decides to take them with her, and Namari goes to meet her mother and asks her for the royal army to fight Raya. And she tells her mother that Raya is going to collect the gem pieces. While on the boat, we find Sisu talking to Raya and telling her that dealing with humans is very hard. You have to lie and manipulate. And Raya tells her that the most important thing right now is her father, and the boat reaches the next land, and she falls into a trap along with Sisu, and a giant man enters on them and takes the 3 pieces from them. But Raya's pet attacks him on his back, along with the young boy, the baby girl and her pets. And they save Raya and Sisu and tie up the giant man. And suddenly they hear Namari's voice warning the people of the city that if they don't hand over Raya, she will attack them. And Raya discovers that all the people of the city have turned into stone, except for the giant man who kidnapped.
And at that moment, Raya goes out to Namari and asks her to leave them and negotiate with her, just to distract her, so her friends can escape without anyone seeing them. But Sisu decides to help Raya when she sees she is about to be defeated by Namari. So Sisu transforms into her real form and goes in to take Raya, filling the place with fog and escaping. And the young boy and the giant man decide to help Raya after they found out that Sisu is the sacred dragon. And the giant man presents his gem piece to Sisu, who flies to the sky. And at that moment it rains and she keeps spinning happily. And the team decides to head to the last land, which is the tribe of the evil chief, to take the last piece of the gem pieces. And Raya explains to the team that this land is protected by a water canal, and the only way to enter it will be through this water. And she tells them that luckily, they have the water dragon Sisu. And at that moment, Sisu takes her and brings her to her area, and she sees her father's statue. So Sisu takes Raya and shows her the statues of her dragon siblings. And she tells her that they were the last dragons that lived, and her big brother refused to surrender to the Droon, and that this was the place where they fought their last battle and gathered all their magic and put it in this gem, and chose her to take the gem and save the world. And after that, Namari arrives at her land and tells her mother about what happened, and her mother turns out to know and continues, saying she saw a dream that Kumandra could return and the world could unite again. But her mother tells her that if the world unites, they won't be able to rule it, and that she has finished her mission up to here. And her mother leaves her and walks away. And Raya and her friends arrive, and the baby girl enters first, and they reach Namari's room and throw her the necklace she gave to Raya when they were kids. And at that moment, Namari sends the signal that Raya understands as her accepting the gift, and Raya goes to meet Namari to give her the last gem piece. But suddenly an arrow is shot,
and Raya discovers Namari's betrayal once again. And Namari takes the gem pieces from Raya, so Raya's friends step in to save her, saying it was a mistake to trust her from the start. And Sisu approaches Namari to try to change her mind, but she gets hit by the arrow as well after Raya tries to shoot at Namari. And at that moment, the Droon attack begins, and Raya disappears from among them, and we find her going to the building where Namari is, and they start fighting each other. And Raya's friends try to save the city from the Droon before the power of the gem disappears. And Raya gets emotional and decides to go with Namari to save the city with the others. But the magic of the gem starts to fade, and Raya walks with the necklace that has the dragon drawing on it and asks them to gather the gem pieces, saying that the most important thing is for them to trust each other and that this is the real power of the gem. And she gives the piece she has to Namari. And after that, she turns into a stone statue by the Droon. And the others decide to do like her, and they give their final trust to Namari, giving her the pieces they have. And Namari gathers the pieces together, and she also turns into a statue. And suddenly the Droon disappear, and a huge power comes out of the gem, and rain falls. And at that moment, the stone statues melt, and Raya, Namari, and the others return to their original state. And at that moment, they discovered they succeeded in saving the world. And the waterfalls return to the city. And also the dragons return. And Sisu returns once again. And she gets happy for the return of her dragon siblings. And she hugs Raya and her friends. And the giant man returns to his city and family. And the baby girl returns to her mother. And the young boy returns to his family. And Raya returns to her city and meets her father and hugs him. And Raya's father meets the dragon Sisu. And she tells him that he must be proud of his daughter because she was able to gather and unite all the lands. And she was able to bring back Kumandra again after all these years.
And with that, our movie ends. Hope you liked the recap. If you reached the end, don't forget to leave a like on the video and write us a nice comment as you always do. And for those watching us for the first time, subscribe to the channel to see all the upcoming recaps. See you in the next movie. Peace. And the third movie with us is Luca. Our movie kicks off with two ordinary fishermen out at sea, right in the middle of the deep, vast, and completely open ocean. They are sitting together on a small wooden fishing boat, completely surrounded by nothing but water for miles in every single direction. And one of them is completely set on heading to a very specific, isolated, and highly mysterious area to cast their nets. The other fisherman is clearly uneasy and tries his absolute best to warn him, telling him that there are tons of terrifying, creepy, and supernatural stories going around about this exact location. But his stubborn friend, whose name is Thomas, completely brushes it all off as a total myth, confidently claiming it's just a bunch of made-up campfire stories meant to scare people away from the absolute best fishing spots in the region. He eagerly throws the heavy net into the water, and right out of nowhere, a strange creature pops up near the surface, tries to steal some random items right off the deck of the boat, and quickly dives back down. The creature gets temporarily tangled up in the ropes, but it barely manages to escape their net as it completely vanishes into the deep blue water. Down under the surface of the water, our main character Luca shows up going about his daily routine. Terrified that his mom will find out the fish got out of their designated spot, he starts screaming in a panic and quickly rounds them all up again. He takes the fish to a safe, grass-filled feeding ground to graze peacefully. Feeling totally bored out of his mind, Luca stands on a rock and finds an old discarded alarm clock scattered on the seabed, along with a random playing card. He picks them up and inspects them both with pure curiosity and wonder. Suddenly, a massive boat passes right above him, forcing him to quickly herd the fish so they can all hide safely underneath a large rock. When his mom calls out from the distance that lunch is finally ready, he hides his new treasures, takes the fish, and heads back home to eat with his parents and grandmother. While sitting around the table, Luca asks where the boats actually come from, and his grandmother mentions successfully defeating a land monster before in her past. However, his mother instantly shuts the conversation down, screaming at her to stop, and warning Luca that dangerous curiosity gets fish caught. She firmly tells him that it is much better to never think or talk about the land. Later, While checking on his hidden stash of surface items, a mysterious figure in a full diving suit appears out of nowhere. Luca is absolutely terrified until he realizes it's actually another sea creature just like him, but in disguise. The stranger grabs the items right out of Luca's hand and runs straight to the surface. Luca chases him all the way out of the water, and the very moment they hit dry land, they instantly transform into regular humans. Shocked and completely overwhelmed by the experience, Luca realizes it is strictly forbidden to be on land, gets really upset, and immediately dives right back into the safety of the ocean. The next day, after a ton of hesitation and overthinking, Luca decides to return to the surface with the boy. The boy, whose name is Alberto, tries to teach Luca exactly how to stand up, balance, and walk around on two legs. After many failed attempts, Luca finally succeeds, and Alberto starts showing him all the amazing perks of land life: the open sky, the warm sun, and jumping around freely. He takes Luca inside his hideout tower, where Luca is completely amazed by all the details and a picture of a Vespa motorcycle hanging on the wall. Alberto calls it the absolute greatest human invention ever made, capable of taking you anywhere. They decide to build their own operational version out of random scraps and wood. Afterward, Luca returns home, promising to come back tomorrow. His mom demands to know where he was all day, but his grandmother quickly steps in and covers for him, saying she sent him to grab something. Luca heavily thanks his grandmother for saving him from the situation. The next morning, Alberto decides it's time to test out their makeshift motorcycle down a steep hill. Luca is absolutely terrified, and the bike completely breaks apart into pieces. But Alberto assures him that the entire experience was beautiful, so they plan to build a brand new, stronger one. Meanwhile, Luca's parents realize he's skipping his regular work duties, track his footprints straight to the surface, and discover his secret. Later, Alberto tells Luca that they absolutely have to test out the motorcycle together this time. They actually take off on the bike, flying straight into the sky right among the birds, before crashing directly into the water below. That night, sitting together looking up at the stars, Alberto claims they are just tiny, glowing fish, protected by a giant fish he once touched. Luca reacts in total awe, telling Alberto his life is way cooler, and wishing he could actually travel and visit real places, instead of just dreaming about them all the time. When Luca asks about the human town, Alberto says his dad told him absolutely everything about it, making Luca wish they had a real manufactured motorcycle. After a vivid dream of touching the giant fish, Luca wakes up startled and rushes home, only for his parents to confront him with his hidden human items. As punishment for his disobedience, they decide to send him to the deepest part of the ocean floor with his creepy Uncle Ugo for 2 full seasons. Luca gets deeply upset, and when his mom threatens to make it 3 seasons, he goes completely quiet and walks away. Deeply upset, Luca runs straight to Alberto and tells him what happened. Alberto suggests running away together to the human town where his parents can't ever reach him. He points out they can see real motorcycles, might even get to own one, and will live completely free without anyone controlling them. Though terrified of the idea, Luca agrees to the plan. Arriving in Porto Rosso, Luca is amazed by the beautiful streets, but terrified by the statues of fish hunters everywhere. When a stray ball a kid throws accidentally hits a Vespa, its arrogant owner, Ercole, mocks their clothes and fishy smell. He tries to shove Luca into a fountain to clean him up, but a fiery girl named Giulia intervenes and stops him. They then hear the police and townspeople offering a massive reward for catching a sea monster, which Ercole proudly vows to win. Giulia mentions the Porto Rosso Cup competition, and Luca realizes this is their ultimate chance to win the prize money needed to buy a real Vespa. They follow Giulia and ask her if entering the race will get them a motorcycle. She tells them no, but explains that they will get prize money, which they can use to buy one. They decide to enter the race, but she warns them that they will have to defeat Ercole, whom nobody has ever managed to beat except her. She explains the race is incredibly brutal and has 3 difficult stages: swimming, riding a bike, and eating pasta, which is why they desperately need a team. They ask her to join their team, and she agrees. After seeing how completely terrible they are at training, she initially refuses to keep them on her team.
but Luca begs her, explaining he's running away from a horrible fate and doesn't want to go back to his parents. Touched by his story, she agrees to the partnership. She will handle the swimming, Luca will bike, and Alberto will handle the eating stage. To get the entry fee, they meet her imposing one-armed father, who is a dedicated fish hunter. Hearing that they need to sell more fish, Luca and Alberto offer to help, using their underwater knowledge to secure a massive haul. Julia is thrilled they finally have the fee, while Luca's parents arrive in town, blending in with the humans to search for him. At the registration, Ercole tries to intimidate Luca, but Julia stands her ground. During swim training in the sea, Ercole's boat deliberately capsizes Julia, and he briefly spots Alberto's tail underwater, but Luca quickly covers it up just in time before Julia climbs back up. Meanwhile, Luca's mom is going around town splashing water on all the kids to expose her son. Luca hears her voice, panics, and seeks comfort from Julia. Looking through her telescope, Julia reveals that stars are actually giant burning suns, not fish. Fascinated, Luca falls in love with the universe and borrows her schoolbook, sparking a deep desire to go to school with her in Genoa. When Luca tells Alberto the truth about the stars and his school dreams, Alberto gets defensive, insisting they don't need school and only need their Vespa and freedom. Ercole corners them again, sensing they are hiding something, and threatens them to leave his town. The next day, during training, Luca spots his mom and veers off, noticing a train to Genoa. Alberto grows furious over Luca's growing bond with Julia, leading to a bitter argument and a bike crash straight into the sea. On land, Alberto purposely reveals his true sea monster form to prove a point. Ercole's gang spots him and tries to hunt him, but Alberto escapes into the sea. Julia, completely shocked by the truth, splashes Luca with water to confirm he is a sea monster too. Terrified for his safety, she begs him to run away immediately since her dad hunts his kind. Luca goes to Alberto's old hideout to apologize, and discovers from the marks on the wall that Alberto's dad abandoned him long ago. Alberto pushes him away, calling himself a screw-up that nobody likes. Determined to fix everything, Luca decides to enter the race completely alone to win the Vespa for Alberto. Luca wears a heavy diving suit for the swimming portion to avoid touching the water. He successfully finishes the swim and the pasta-eating phases.
Moving on to the final bike race, suddenly a heavy rainstorm starts. As Luca hesitates under an awning to avoid transforming, Alberto runs toward him holding an umbrella. Ercole deliberately knocks Alberto down, causing the umbrella to fall and exposing his monster form to the terrified crowd. Alberto gets trapped in a net, but Luca bravely rides straight into the rain, transforms, and rescues him on the bike. Ercole chases them down aggressively, but Julia crashes her bike into Ercole's to save them. Luca and Alberto turn back to help Julia rather than cross the finish line. The townspeople surround them, and Ercole demands their execution. However, Julia's dad steps forward, shielding them from the crowd, and proudly declares Luca and Alberto the official winners since their bike crossed the line. The town cheers. Ercole is humiliated, and Luca's parents finally embrace him. The town officially learns to accept the sea monsters and welcomes them into the community. With the prize money, they finally buy their dream Vespa. However, Alberto surprises Luca with a life-changing gift. He's sold the Vespa to buy Luca a train ticket to Genoa so he can attend school with Julia. After an emotional goodbye and a huge hug, Luca boards the train, finally leaving his old life behind to completely pursue his education, step out into the massive world, and achieve the grand dream he has been wanting for a very long time. And with that, our movie ends. Hope you liked the recap. If you reached the end, don't forget to leave a like on the video and write us a nice comment as you always do. And for those watching us for the first time, subscribe to the channel to see all the upcoming recaps. See you in the next movie. Peace.